to Whiskey Nightcaps, and I'm your host, a black guy that drinks whiskey. Okay, wait a minute. No, that's totally wrong. Welcome to Whiskey Nightcaps, the channel where we do sip before sleep. I am your host, Jason Davis, and today we are taking a trip all the way to Ireland, showcasing this Redbreast 12 Cask Strength. Not just the regular Redbreast 12, but the Cask Strength. Now, about a week or so ago, I was in the dispensary of fine spirits looking for whiskeys that cost under 25 bucks, and I saw this sitting there, and I said to myself, oh snap, yo, I have to have this. I already owned the 12. So when I saw this, I knew I was coming back on payday, and today is Friday, baby, on payday to get this whiskey. Now, I was engaged in a conversation on Instagram about Redbreast, and I kind of gave my opinion about the 12, and somebody had suggested the 15, and I was like, I don't know where to find the 15, which they have that now as well. Here we are, ready to deep dive into this whiskey. But before we do that, right? So you have to handle whiskey gently. A little bit of foreplay, right? You can't just rush right in. So let's talk about Redbreast for a second. Okay, Redbreast is a mixture of unmalted barley and malted barley. Now, legend has it, way back in the day, the British were trying to tax the Irish on malted barley, which they knew they needed to make whiskey. And so to get around that, to create a loophole, they started making whiskey with unmalted barley, which is supposed to bring a little bit more spiciness. The unmalted barley brings a little bit more spiciness to the whiskey. Now, this is triple distilled in pot stills, copper pot stills. That's what you see on the cover of, or on the label of, Woodford Reserve. They're one of the only American producers of whiskey that triple distill their whiskey in copper pot stills. Okay, now the copper pot still is supposed to retain a little bit more of the flavor than, say, a coffee or column still. Now, as far as the maturation process is concerned, these people, these fine gentlemen and ladies, what they do is they have cask built and shipped out. So they have cask that are shipped out to hold sherry for a minimum of 2 years. And once that 2 years comes, whoever is producing that wine empties the sherry out of the barrels, gives it back, they put whiskey inside, and they let it mature for 12 years. On the other hand, they have barrels that go to Kentucky, American white oak barrels, charred barrels that are used to house bourbon, right? For a minimum of 3 to 4 years. Once that 3 to 4 years is up, they dump that whiskey out, they sell it to us. I don't know whose whiskey it is. They give those barrels back, they put their Irish whiskey inside for 12 years. At the end of that 12 years, they marry those two whiskeys together, and you have Redbreast. Now, the Redbreast 12 is 40% ABV. This sucker right here, 55.8, so we're talking 15.8% increase. This is supposed to be the non-watered down version of that whiskey that we all love and cherish, okay? And as I said in a previous video, anytime you're not watering down the whiskey, the flavor of that whiskey is going to be totally different, right? The flavor profile is going to be amped up, because anytime you add water to something, it brings the flavor down. Now, I've been letting this sit. It's been resting or breathing or whatever terminology you like to use, and you probably can't see this, but it actually has condensation inside the glass. Like, this thing has been heating up in here. Woo! Yeah. Okay, you're getting the spice, Possibly the spice is not coming from the charred bourbon barrels. It may be coming from the unmalted barley. The sherry portion is not as pronounced, but you do smell the fruit. It is there, raisins. It almost smells like a pie, like a cherry pie, but with baking spices in it. And some caramelized sugar. All right, let's see what this sucker tastes like. Immediately as this hits the tongue, it starts doing a dance. It starts break dancing on your tongue. The spices are there. The spice kick is like the first thing that you experience, and then that fruitiness starts to come out. Now, when you're nosing or when you're tasting whiskey, your mind tells you, hey, this smells like this or this tastes like this, pulling from experiences you've had in your life, right? Because you can't compare the smell of something that you've never experienced, right? So anytime that I nose or I taste Irish whiskey or Scottish whiskey, I always get apple. The barley to me, apple. So I'm getting a little bit of that, a little bit of vanilla. It's definitely warming, for sure. It's not a punk. This is not a punk. This ain't to be played with. Let's try one more time. There are so many different things going on in this one glass. I mean, there's like flavors everywhere, and it's like a holiday in a glass, but not Christmassy, more like Thanksgiving-y, right? Pull out the cranberry sauce and the turkey. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more of the influence from the sherry cask. Now again, this is matured in sherry cask, not finished in sherry cask. For those of you noobs, finished whiskey, after it's matured and the primary barrel goes into another barrel that used to house some other type of spirit or alcoholic beverage, but for a period of months, not years, right? Which gives it a faint influence. But this one was matured in the sherry cask. So for over 12 years, this wood is expanding and contracting, pulling in that Irish whiskey, mixing it with the sherry that previously was there, pushing it back out. Now, I'd read in a review on Distiller, if you don't have that app or you're not a member on that website, go ahead, sign up. This one gentleman that makes a review on everything really didn't have good things to say about this particular whiskey, but reviews of whiskey are like reviews of movies, right? It's all opinion. And one person's opinion differs from yours. And the only way that you can know for sure whether or not you're going to like what you're experiencing is to experience it. You can't let that person make a decision for you. Now, there are some times when I do let reviews influence me when everybody says the same thing. If everybody says it's horrible, then that's something I'm not going to waste my money on. But if there's a mix of, hey, this is great, and man, this really isn't that good, I'll give it a try anyway. So he said that he was unable to pick up the sherry influence. It's there. Wherever he lives, this is $59. Here in Maryland, in Howard County, I'm ashamed to say this is $86. But this is worth every last penny. I would spend that $86 on this again. Sometimes you get what you pay for. You know, there's this, when I go to the store to get mouthwash, I can get the store brand mouthwash. It's the same exact thing. But sometimes you can't skimp on the money when you want quality, and this is a prime example. when I made that trip to the fine dispensary of, when I made that trip to the dispensary of fine spirits and I got those whiskeys for under 26, they were fine, but they were lacking. This is something that is not lacking. But wait, there's more. Now, there was no way I could let this go without comparing this to the original Redbreast 12 that I have, that I've been holding on to and don't mind the tape around the neck. Took a trip to Atlantic City. I get disappointed by other people's drinks, so I brought my whiskey with me, and I didn't want to spill. Now, this is 40% ABV, same exact mash bill as this. This is the same exact whiskey, but with just more, or pardon me, not more, but with water added. Now, this is definitely brighter. Believe it or not, ironically, the sherry cask influence is more pronounced on this one. Now, does that surprise me? No, and I'll tell you why. Think about when you're at home and you're experimenting with whiskey, and sometimes you put a few drops of water in and it opens up the whiskey, right? It changes the nose, it changes the profile, the taste profile. That's what happened here. They took this, added water in, you get this. See how I can put my nose straight in? And I got big nostrils. Couldn't do that with this. I would have singed my nose hairs off. Still getting that apple from the barley. Listen, that's me. People say they smell cherry on bourbon. I've never smelled cherry on bourbon. Never picked it up when I'm nosing bourbon. Never picked up cherry. It's all based on our own experiences. This is definitely sherry forward. There's a little bit of the spice, but it's faint. Let's go in. The mouthfeel is different. This one kind of hugs you. This has a lighter mouthfeel. It just floats. It's sweeter, more fruity, still enjoyable. Still a quality whiskey worth every penny. If you're asking me to give one up, that's not gonna happen. I want to keep both in my collection. When they both run out, I will both get another one. I don't think that sounds right, but I will get 2 more of these, because sometimes you're in different moods and you want to sip different whiskeys. So there's a time and a place for this. And there's also a time and a place for this one. However, if you're asking me like, hey, somebody puts a gun to my head and says, hey, which one of these whiskeys you gonna choose, man? I'll blow your brains out. I'm gonna have to go with this. It's the ABV sells it for me. Now, all right, so I wanna thank you guys for rocking out with me on another episode of Whiskey Nightcaps. Please make sure to subscribe and keep this channel running. Also hit the like button, hit the notification button, go down in the comments, make a comment. If you don't like it, tell me that too. Either way, algorithms, right? Let's come back. We'll be talking about Jack Daniels. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Pew, pew, pew.